Hi everyone, suppose your online store is running smoothly with auto scaling, handling everyday traffic without any issues. Your auto scaling group is configured with normal limits, a minimum of 1 instance, a desired count of 1, and a maximum of 2. When a scheduled flash sale goes live, traffic surges as hundreds of users visit your site. The normal auto-scaling limits aren't sufficient for this planned spike, so we need to temporarily adjust the baseline capacity. To handle this, we can use a scheduled scaling action to increase capacity during the sale and then safely return to our baseline once traffic normalizes. Now let's look at this diagram. On the left hand side, we can see we have ASG. This is my baseline auto scaling group. I have set minimum, desired, and max to 1, 1, and 2 respectively. I am using target tracking scaling policy based on average CPU utilization with an aggressive target so scaling happens quickly for our demo. At the start, ASC launches one EC2 instance, and when I run CPU stress test on the instance, the CPU usage goes up. The auto scaling group reads CPU metrics from the CloudWatch and compares them with the target. Once the CPU crosses the target value, auto scaling scales out and launches another EC2 instance up to the maximum of 2. This shows the normal automatic behavior of an ASG with target tracking without any scheduled actions involved. On the right hand side, we have scheduled scaling policy for our auto scaling group. It contains two scheduled actions. Our first scheduled action is called flash sale scale out. This triggers at 10 UTC and increases the AC limits so that the group can handle higher load during a flash sale. Min, desired, and max are raised to 3, 3, and 4, allowing more EC2 instances to run. Moving to our second scheduled action, we call it reset ASG to baseline. This triggers at 10:10 UTC and restores the original ASG limits. Min, desired, and max are lowered back to 1, 1, and 2, so extra instances are terminated and the ASG returns to normal baseline behavior. Together, these scheduled actions automate capacity changes for predictable events, while the target tracking policy continues to scale the ASC dynamically within the limits defined by each action. The vertical arrow on the left shows the flow of time. So let's scroll down. Suppose now the time is 10 UTC. At this point, flash sale scale out scheduled scaling policy triggers. This scheduled action updates the auto scaling group capacity settings. It raises the minimum, desired, and maximum values. Because the desired capacity is now set to 3, the ASG immediately launches to reach that number, no matter whether we had 1 or 2 instances before. It is important to note that the target tracking policy is still active. Scheduled scaling does not replace it. What the scheduled action really does is change the boundaries. Now target tracking is allowed to scale between 3 and 4 instead of between 1 and 2. When we run CPU stress test on multiple EC2 instances and the average CPU goes above the target tracking scales the ASG further to the new maximum of 4. So here you are seeing both policies working together, which means scheduled scaling sets the capacity limit for the flash sale and target tracking reacts automatically to the real load within those limits. Scrolling down, suppose the time is 10:10 UTC. Now our second scheduled action called reset ASG to baseline triggers. The scheduled action updates the ASG capacity limits. The minimum, desired, and maximum values are reduced to 1, 1, and 2. Because the desired capacity is now 1, the ASG terminates extra EC2 instances, bringing the total back down from 3 or 4 to 1. The target tracking policy remains active, so the ASG can scale automatically if CPU changes, but now only within the restored baseline limit of min 1 and max of 2. Essentially, this scheduled action resets the ASG to its normal behavior and target tracking continues as before. Now that we have understood this diagram, let's see it in action in the AWS console. Now that we are in the AWS console, let's open EC2. From the left-hand side menu under Instances, let's click Launch Templates. Click Create Launch Template. Give this launch template a name. Scroll down and under Application and OS Images, go to this Quick Start tab. Let's select Amazon Linux. For the instance type, let's select t3.micro. Let's scroll down and under Security Group, let's select this default security group and click Create Launch Template from the right hand side. We can see we have successfully created our launch template. So let's move back to our EC2 console. Scroll to the bottom and under Auto Scaling, let's click Auto Scaling Groups. Click Create Auto Scaling Group. Let's give this auto scaling group a name. Under Launch Template drop-down, let's select our Demo AST template. Click Next. For Availability Zone, let's select this first one. Now click Next. Leave all the settings as default and click Next again. Under Scaling, for the max desired capacity, let's put the value of 2. For scaling, let's select Target Tracking Scaling Policy. For the metric type, let's select Average CPU Utilization. For the target value, let's put it as 20. For instance warm-up, let's put the value of 60. Scroll to the bottom and click Next. Click Next again. Click Next. And finally click Create Auto Scaling Group. You can see we have created auto scaling group called Demo ASG, which has status of updating capacity right now. So let's wait till the status changes. Here we can see we have set desired capacity to 1, min to 1 and max to 2. And currently we have one instance under this auto scaling group. If we move back to our diagram, we can see we have created baseline configuration matching min, desired and max with proper target tracking policy. Moving back to our EC2 console, we have selected this auto scaling group called Demo ASG by clicking this checkbox, and in the bottom screen we can see we have multiple tabs. So under instance management, we can see we have an instance that's in service that is managed by this Demo ASG auto scaling group. Now let's look into this activity tab. Under this activity history, we can see we have successfully launched a new EC2 instance as we have set a desired value of 1. Now let's go to this instance management, open up this instance and click connect. Select EC2 instance connect and click connect. Here it looks like we are having trouble connecting to our instance. So let's move back to our instance details tab. Under security, let's open this default security that we selected for our EC2 instance. And let's edit this inbound rule and delete this default inbound rule, and let's add a new inbound rule where we'll have all traffic as type. For source, let's select anywhere IPv4 and let's click save rules. Now let's go back to our EC2 instance connect. Let's refresh this page. Now we can see we are able to log into the terminal of our EC2 instance that was created by our auto scaling group. Now let's run two commands. So this first command will install a package called stress, and this second command will run this stress command for 2 minutes. So let's run this command. You can see now the stress command is running. So let's move back to our auto scaling group and go to this monitoring tab. Under monitoring tab, let's select this EC2, and under EC2, let's open this CPU utilization graph. Let's wait till we see the rise in CPU utilization graph. Here in the CPU utilization graph, we can see we have increased our CPU utilization to above 25%. So Let's close the CPU utilization graph and let's look into this activity tab. Let's click refresh. Now let's wait till the ASC handles the scaling. Finally, we can see autoscaling has launched a new EC2 instance in response to our CPU stress command. So it shows that our target tracking is working correctly with the max value of 2. So moving back to our diagram, we have tested this ASC baseline configuration with target tracking policy where we did stress test and we reached the maximum capacity of 2 instances. Now let's run this scheduled action by first creating a scheduled action called flash sale scale out and trigger it. Now let's move back to our auto scaling groups console. Now let's select this automatic scaling tab. Scroll down, we can see we have target tracking policy. Scroll to the bottom and we see we have here scheduled actions. So let's click create scheduled action. Let's give this action a name. As per our diagram, let's set the desired capacity to 3, min to 3 and max to 4. We will set recurrence to 1. Now let's select the start date. We will choose today's date as 24th of February. So for the start time, let's check what is our current time in UTC. You can see current time in UTC is 10:26. So let's put our start time as 10:27 and click create. Let's wait for a minute for this scheduled action to get triggered. Right now, the scheduled action is empty because ASC has executed our previously created scheduled action called flash sale scale out. So let's look into this activity tab and let's look into this activity history. We can see we have successfully executed our action called flash sale scale out, which increased our desired capacity from 2 to 3 and in that process launched a new instance. So right now we have 3 instances under our ASG called demo ASG. So let's verify this by looking into this instance management. You can see that we have 3 EC2 instances with value of in service for life cycle. Let's move back to our diagram. What we have done is that we have successfully ran scheduled action called flash sale scale out where we changed our limit to 3, 3 and 4 for our min desired and max. Since desired was set to 3, right now we have 3 instances after we ran this action. Now we want to perform this stress test on our multiple EC2 instances to see if target tracking is still active. We should be able to see 4 instances running while we perform stress test on our EC2 instances. So let's move back to our auto scaling group. Let's open up this 2 newly created EC2 instances. Let's click connect and let's do same for the another EC2 instance. So right now we have 3 EC2 instances with access to the terminal. For these 2 new EC2 instances, let's run our to command. Now let's move to our third instance. Run the command again. For our first instance, let's run the command only as we have already installed the package previously. Right now, all of our 3 EC2 instances are under stress test. Now let's move back to our activity tab and see if target tracking policy adds new instance in response to our stress test. Finally, we can see that we have launched a new EC2 instance. So we are increasing capacity from 3 to 4. So moving back to this diagram, what we have done is that we have executed this scheduled action with desired of 3 and maximum of 4 We did stress test and ASG scaled out to 4 instances as a response to our stress test. So it shows that scheduled scaling and target tracking can work together. So let's verify this by going to the instance management. Under instance management, right now we can see we have 4 EC2 instances. Moving back to our diagram, now let's simulate our last schedule action called reset ASG to baseline. So let's move back to our auto scaling group. Under automatic scaling, scroll to the bottom and click create scheduled action. Let's give this action a name. For desired capacity and for min capacity, put the value of 1, and for the max, let's put the value of 2. Recurrence will be set to once, and for the start date, let's select today's date. So for the start time, let's go back to this browser and refresh this page. So let's copy this time in UTC and paste it. So let's make this to 50. So it executes in the next minute. Click create. Now let's go to this activity tab again. Let's refresh this activity history. You can see now we are executing our scheduled action called reset ASG to baseline. You can see we have multiple rows with description that says EC2 instance terminating. So we have 1, 2 and 3 different EC2 instances in a process of termination. Moving back to this diagram, what we did is that we restored our limit to our baseline. Our baseline is min of 1, desired of 1 and max of 2. So we restored to our baseline. So finally ASG will terminate instances to 1, and from now onward target tracking can scale between min of 1 and max of 2. So let's move back to our auto scaling group. Let's refresh this activity history. You can see we have successfully terminated our 3 EC2 instances. Let's look from instance management tab 2. Finally, we see we have a single EC2 instance running. So that will be it for this demo. In order to prevent unnecessary cost, let's delete this auto scaling group. Right now we have selected auto scaling group called demo ASG. So let's click this actions drop down and click delete. Confirm this delete, clicking delete again. So to wrap this up, we started with an auto scaling group running at its normal baseline for everyday traffic. When the flash sale began, a scheduled scaling action adjusted the ASG limits and ensured enough capacity was available before traffic spiked. During the sale, target tracking continued to work as usual, scaling within those new limits based on real load. And once the sale ended, another scheduled action safely brought the auto-scaling group back to its original baseline. This is how scheduled scaling and target tracking work together to handle planned traffic spikes efficiently, predictably, and without manual intervention. If you found this helpful, please like the video and subscribe for more AWS and cloud architecture demos. Thanks for watching.